Causes of thyrotoxicosis. Thyrotoxicosis is nothing but the clinical features because of a lot of thyroid hormones. Okay, so it can be associated with the hyperfunctioning thyroid gland, which is called hyperthyroidism, or there is no hyperfunctioning thyroid gland, meaning without hyperthyroidism as well. So thyrotoxicosis, if hyperthyroidism is present, it can be primary and secondary. Primary can be because of Graves' disease or iodine-induced hyperthyroidism, multinodular goiter, and a single adenoma which is hyperfunctioning. So primary hyperthyroid thyrotoxicosis includes Graves' disease, iodine-induced hyperthyroidism, hyperfunctioning multinodular goiter, hyperfunctioning single adenoma. Secondary could be a TSH secreting adenoma from the pituitary causing hyperthyroidism, causing thyrotoxicosis, or it can be a chorionic gonadotropin secreting tumor, or it can be just pregnancy. So TSH secreting adenoma, chorionic gonadotropin, that is HCG secreting tumor, and gestational. All right. So if the hyperthyroidism is absent and still the person has thyrotoxicosis, there are different causes for that. Okay. But before that, let's revise the hyperthyroidism causing thyrotoxicosis once again. So if the function of the thyroid gland is very high and the person has features of hyperthyroidism like thyroid hormone excess, it's hyperthyroidism and thyrotoxicosis. Okay. So hyperthyroidism present naka, the causes can be primary and secondary. Primary means the thyroid gland is at trouble, is causing the trouble, and secondary means something other than the thyroid gland is causing the trouble. Okay. So primary can be Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid gland, causing it to synthesize a lot of thyroid hormones. Second is iodine induced, so like the person consumes a lot of salt and then there's a problem. Third is a hyperfunctioning multinodular goiter. Fourth is a hyperfunctioning single adenoma. Secondary causes could be a TSH secreting adenoma, can be a chorionic gonadotropin tumor secreting tumor, or it can be gestational. So TSH secreting adenoma or a HCG secreting tumor or gestational hyperthyroidism. Moving on to the causes of thyrotoxicosis where hyperthyroidism is not present, which means hyperthyroidism is absent. Like the function of the thyroid gland is the same thing, but still there are features of thyrotoxicosis. It could be because the thyroid gland is getting injured as a result of inflammatory process and it's just leaking whatever thyroid is produced. It's not producing an excess amount, it's just leaking it out. Okay, for example, it can occur because of subacute granulomatous thyroiditis and subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis. A point to be noted here is that subacute granulomatous thyroiditis is a painful condition and lymphocytic is a not painful condition. Apart from that, struma ovarii, meaning an ectopic thyroid tissue which is like in the abdomen somewhere, and fourth one is factitious problem, which is nothing but it's common in nurses. So nurses, in order to lose weight, they take thyroid drugs like thyroxine, and instead of, I mean, they do lose weight, but apart from that they also get other features of thyrotoxicosis. Okay, so these are the causes of thyrotoxicosis when the hyperthyroidism is absent. To repeat, subacute granulomatous thyroiditis, subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis, struma ovarii, and factitious thyroiditis. Okay. Moving on to the investigations for thyrotoxicosis. First, thyrotoxicosis, we expect T3, T4 to be very high and the TSH is low. Okay. I mean, whenever there is thyroiditis, the function of the thyroid gland is low or high. But what we clinically look in the lab values is T3, T4 is always high, and as a compensation, the TSH is low. Okay, this is what we expect. Second, we look for MNG by thyroid scans, and okay, thyroid scan is done for multinodular goiter and also toxic adenoma. Third, some non-specific signs could also be seen, like for instance, calcium is very high. There's osteoporosis, right? Because of that. Apart from that, ALT, alanine aminotransferase, AP, alkaline phosphatase, GGT, gamma glutamyl transferase, these three are very high. ALT, AP, GGT are high. Calcium is high. Bilirubin is also high. Just remember ABC. A is that AP and ALT, and B is bilirubin, C is calcium, and GGT is also high. Apart from that, diabetes mellitus could be there, and lag storage glycosuria is seen. So, like the person keeps excreting a lot of glucose. Okay, these are the investigations. T3, T4 is high, TSH is low. Thyroid scan is also done. All the ABC is high. Glucosuria is there. Thank you.